Oh, goodness, it's already recording. Excellent. Knew what I wanted to do. All right. Thank you very much, guys, for told you I'd be back. There's always so much pressure when you leave and you're like, oh my gosh, and then you can't remember how to run anything because you know you have 100 people on a call waiting for you to talk about important things with them. Thank you for joining the Critical Language Scholarship Information Session. Before we just sort of jump into the nuts and bolts of what this is and get to a place where we can answer and respond to some of the questions you might have about applying, I want to first tell you a little bit about the Office of Fellowships, what it is and what we provide, and at the same time talk to you about the advising protocols that we're going to have to put forward this year because of a lot of different challenges in the office with like just manpower and personnel and like level of interest here. So first of all, the Office of Fellowships at Georgetown University runs a number of programs that sit at this kind of co-curricular experiential learning, opportunities to develop and enhance the academic experiences that you're having on campus, whether through your undergraduate degree program or your graduate degree program. So that can mean fully funded graduate study. It can also mean research opportunities. It can mean internships, and it can mean foreign language training like the Critical Language Scholarship. So anything that's going to start building those skills. Fellowships are sort of like it's sort of an amorphous term. I didn't really even know what it was when I started working on them. I thought it was just for doctoral students. But again, we have a number of them. So if you are interested in other opportunities that we recruit for, advise on, and support students applying for, I encourage you to go to our website, GOFAR, so that's Georgetown Office of Fellowships, Awards, and Resources. And you can look there at other fellowships that we offer that you might be of interest, that might be of interest to you. One that I'll plug right now that I bet you there are people on this call right now that already applied for is the U.S. Student Fulbright Program. That deadline passed a couple of days ago, and the Office of Fellowships runs the advising on that program. Despite the sort of perhaps first judgments that you might have made about my fun and love of video games and my son, we're also not terrible at what we do when it comes to advising and supporting students in these fellowships. So I will say that Georgetown University for several years running has been the top performing critical language scholarship recipient institution. It has also been last year the top producing Fulbright institution in the nation. And that is outperforming all institutions, even those that are more highly ranked than we are. So for a number of reasons, this is a good fit for our student body, of course, but we hope to be able to provide you with some strategies that help you implement and fully put forward the most competitive application possible. Here's the thing. There are 2 people in the office that do fellowship advising. We do 30 fellowships. We just got done submitting over 160 some odd Fulbright applications. We reviewed probably upwards of 200 plus Fulbright applications in August. We're going to have another onslaught of folks needing support on the critical language scholarship. Again, that's 2 of our 30 that we're advising on. So what this means is we have to find ways to get you the support and the content and the information and the services that you need, but you also have to understand that there's not going to be opportunities this year to sit down and have your essays deeply reviewed by an advisor. If we did that, we would have nothing, we would have no other time to support other fellowships that we're working on, so on and so forth. So what that means is we're going to be creating a Google, or we'll be inviting you to a Google Drive. We'll be including information about the, about the strategy for applying for this thing. We will also then be having a series of workshops that attend to the writing function. So in a way, if you came to each of those workshops, you would do better than a one-off getting your essays read by an advisor anyway. We will also be having we've kind of thought about as open advising, right? And that means we will have some times throughout the month up ahead of the 17th November, the deadline, in which you can drop in and ask anything from a preliminary question to a high level strategic question about an essay that you had, if you want to bring it to the open house. What's really great about the open house is that even if you attend and you don't ask a question, you will have left that session sometimes learning more than if you would come with a question yourself. So the thing about the open advising is you have to be comfortable with sharing your questions and your work. And if you can do that, you will get a lot out of it by having other, individuals ask questions that you may not have thought of. So all of this is going to provide you with top level advising, but we're not going to be having the advising that might be one-to-one. It doesn't maximize our ability to provide everybody with as much as we can. Now, we would definitely offer that if we had more advisors, and it's something that we're always asking for. It's a little challenging right now in the pandemic. We've done really well in fellowships. We've outperformed, I think, so many different institutions with half the amount of staff. We were in the process of getting additional staff, and then, everything's kind of on pause right now. That said, let's jump into what the Critical Language Scholarship is, what you can think and prepare for in terms of designing a competitive application. There is strategy to this. There's definitely strategy to the writing. And I think of fellowship application writing as an occluded genre. And so that's just a really fancy way of saying it's something that people write that you don't write very often. So you usually don't know how to write those genres. Or those types of forms. Like, you're very well versed in academic writing and your discipline. You're pretty well versed at texting your friends or writing an email. Those are writing activities that you do all the time. You may not always be aware of how what are called occluded genres operate. And so what we do is we help you understand the audience awareness, what a selection committee member looks for, and then how to think about 3 things in the writing process: designing the application pitch. So what are those things that you need to attend to that help you think about situating yourself in such a way to respond to those questions that maximally, offer competitiveness for how you're thinking about making this this is a persuasive endeavor, 100%, right? We help you think through how to do that. And so what you should say is one activity, and then how you say it, whether telling stories or using anecdotes or like thinking through the reader position, we help you do that too, right? So how do you think about it strategically? What should you say? And then how do you say it? Those are ways that we think about the writing process when it comes to the Critical Language Scholarship or any fellowship essentially that you apply for, okay? The Critical Language Scholarship program is one that both Laura, the other advisor in the office, she'll be doing some of the workshops and open houses too. We kind of rotate. We've both served on the selection committee several times. I've done Arabic and Persian. I believe Laura's sat on the Chinese selection committee. So we have a pretty good understanding of how the selection committees operate because we've got to take part in those processes. The Critical Language Scholarship, when you submit your application, the committee is comprised of like a language expert, a faculty expert, and then like a generalist, right? A professional that does, student development work. And so we have served in those roles. We don't have all those languages, but we do allow for that voice at the table that says, this is a person that's really thought through how the language is going to benefit their long-term goals. They've really connecting the dots with their academic development. That's sort of our role when we've served on the panels, but we've had a great opportunity to sort of learn how a selection committee orients itself in the deliberation process, and it helps us help you essentially. These are opportunities to intensely study a foreign language as defined by the State Department. One of the things that you want to, hold on, let me see if I can do like this, be aware of is that I cannot at this point in time tell you which programs may or may not go forward in fully immersive, in its full immersive and sort of like plan as this program has been run for many years. They have made provisions for offering virtual immersive learning experiences. I know that's not exciting or fun, but there's still many benefits for doing and having a critical language scholarship and doing that language learning, even if it's not giving you that really immersive abroad experience. That is really exciting about this, and that is super unfortunate that there might be a potential, depending upon what the state of our sort of global health looks like next summer, that some of these could be transitioned into an online format. But the thing is, if it makes sense for you to learn the language, it makes sense for you to apply for this. It's fully funded, you're getting academic credit. The curriculum that they use is some of the best out there. So in terms of language gains, typically the State Department or the American Councils, that's the entity that runs the critical language scholarship, says that by the time you've done 8 weeks of immersive training through their training process, you will have like a full academic year's worth of advancement. And they do pre and post tests to sort of, you know, have and to be able to sort of state that claim. This is going to take part in the summer. So if all is well in these programs, it's a long time from now in a way, right? There's a lot of things that could change, hopefully. Many of these programs could fully move forward. Some programs might move forward, some might be online, right? But no matter what, it's taking part in the summer of 2021. If you are currently a senior, you are still eligible to apply and be considered and receive the award, even if you're going to graduate in May of 2021 and therefore no longer be currently enrolled as a student. Totally fine. Same with your master's applicants here. If you're in a master's program, you're going to graduate in May, you're still completely eligible to apply. The only requirement in terms of eligibility as it's related to academic progress is that you are at the time of application enrolled in a degree granting program. Okay, so even if you're not going to be any longer a student in the summer and you're a student now, you're gravy to apply. Okay, all fields are open. You know, we want everyone from the STEM student to, you know, the performing artist. If you have a reason for developing this language as it relates to your academic and professional goals, perfect. You don't need to worry about this is only for language people, it's only for security people. That's not the case. And it is, of course, fully funded. The reason that the Critical Language Scholarship Program exists is because the federal government has recognized that there are some languages that are lesser taught and that we have a critical need for individuals in our workforce to have a fluency or a grounding in. Many people that apply for and move on with a critical language scholarship, those skills end up being returned back in some sort of federal capacity because, yeah, they want to do foreign service or they want to go to the Defense Department or wherever, right? That said, it's not going to have preference for your ability to commit to some sort of federal track. There are some fellowships that would want that. This one is actually looking for you to be able to define discreetly why you need this skill. And if that, like why that language skill becomes really important to your long-term goals and it's not necessarily directly related to federal service in the long run, that's fine. Part of this program is also to allow you to have expand your cultural fluency and you know, your understanding of other cultures and languages. So it's a cultural immersion educational program. Although in some ways, this is also really important in terms of preparing the federal workforces with the skills that are in high demand and lesser available, not taught often at higher education institutions, although Georgetown has a fair few of these represented. Now you want to like make sure that you have the eligibility that is required at the time of application for the language to which you want support and funding for. So if you are interested in studying Arabic, Korean, Portuguese, or Russian, you will need to have 1 year of academics, so 1 year of study, which is akin to like 2 courses or 6 credits. If you had a half a semester intensive and it's a year, then that would count. Maybe you have also, outside of your Georgetown education, been pursuing informally and training yourself in one of these languages, and you can make an argument that you have 1 year's worth of study, or maybe it's spoken in the home, and therefore you don't have it on your transcript that you have Korean, but you've been in a Korean family. I mean, your family is Korean, maybe they speak Korean, and you have some sort of like competency that satisfies the 1 year, you're eligible to apply, right? And that can be a little tricky in terms of making sure that you can make the argument for yourself that you have that skill. This is not a time though to try to just like slam together in the next 6 weeks a year's worth of study and sort of fudge it, right? Like you do need to be really sort of careful about assessing yourself as much as one can. And you know, if you have the year of study, it's on your transcript, then of course that's no worries there. You will need 2 years of prior study for Chinese and Japanese. And then of course, there are a number of languages that maybe you have an interest in picking up and you have no prior experience. You don't need any experience in order to apply, but you will certainly need a rationale for why you're applying for that language. It can't just be, I'm fascinated in learning Swahili. You're going to need to connect that to some sort of larger academic and professional goal. Maybe it's related to your interest in, you know, international development with a focus in Tanzania, maybe. Someone give me a country that speaks Swahili. Oh, here's where it gets really bad. I'm not as well versed in some of the language locations, although the Fulbright program has made me exceptional at world geography. When I first started doing information sessions for the Fulbright, I would like not let students like pick a country, because if I had to go to the country page and then I picked the wrong region, I would feel like, you know, all the people that take map of the modern world like look down on me with shame. I'm still not so great with my languages yet, but bear with me. One day it'll click. What I'm saying is, I actually don't know what I just kind of went off on a tangent. You're going to have to forgive me for that. Reel it in. Okay. Back to no experience required. You have to, okay, yeah, you have to be able to say why you want that language. And it can't just be because, you know, you did an eeny, meeny, miny, mo and you want an educational vacation in the summer, although that would be nice. Okay. So what does it involve? Like funding, what's covered? Domestic travel to and from, again, typically, if all things go as planned, and you have your immersive experience in country, you're going to get the domestic travel to Washington, D.C. for an orientation. Then you'll get that round trip, you know, cost covered to get to country. Your visa fees will be taken care of. Be careful. What language was it? It was one of the Indian languages. Depending upon your own personal travel experience and background, if you are applying for a language to which your prior travel will be a challenge in the visa application process, you may want to be aware of the fact that you have to be able to get your visa. The CLS will pay your visa fees, but some of the Indian languages, like if you'd spent time in Pakistan, I think that there can be some challenges, and we've had someone that couldn't move forward because of an inability to get the visa. So please be careful and, you know, duly consider that if you fall in the rare chance that you fall in that category. You get your housing and your meals and your classroom instruction, and then they're going to take you to all these fun things and you're going to go on tours of stuff, and it's just wonderful. And all that's going to be covered. So this is nothing that you're going to have to pay for. All of it is fully funded. And then on top of that, you will get academic credit. You will get 6 credits for your work conferred by Bryn Mawr College. Georgetown, you know, recognizes the credit. So there you go. That's even maybe 6 credits of tuition. That sounds like a pretty great program to me if you are interested in learning a language, a critical one, and can connect it to an academic or professional interest that advances your long-term goals. Okay. So, sorry, I'm just reminding myself of this information session that I haven't done for a year. Okay, so what does it actually look like when you're in country? You know, you're with your cohort. These are American students across the United States. Depending on your language level, you are not going to be placed, you know, you could be a freshman in college, but if your language is such that you're in an advanced setting, you could, yes, be in a group with a PhD student or a master's student or a senior, right? So it's about the language level, coming together in class instruction about part-time in class. The other half of the week, you're actually learning about the culture, museum visits, historical sites. One of the cool things are that you don't get to speak any English. This is part of the way that this becomes an immersive, advanced, rapid language acquisition program, is because you won't be speaking any English for like 2 months. And that can be challenging. So this program is not, you know, your study abroad, like, you know, slack off and have a good time. You're going to be intensely learning languages. So especially if you're picking up a language for the first time, or some of these more challenging languages to learn, you want to be very mindful of this can also be a stressful experience. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It doesn't mean that stress is a bad thing, but you're going to need to really do some reflection on how you typically adapt to new cultural settings. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, I had culture shock when I went to the United Kingdom. Okay. Right. So I know that sounds very sad, but I was from Texas, and I was sort of when I was younger and very like kind of, my father was an evangelical minister. So now you can probably put all those pieces together. So when I went to the UK, I was like, oh my God, it was really exciting, but it was also pretty shocking to have such a different cultural transition, and to have it be an unexpected thing is completely normal, but there are some things that you can do to indicate in your application the ways that you're already thinking about how you adapt to that. And some of those things that make this challenging program, a richly rewarding but challenging program, is yes, the fact that it's a new culture, but at the same time, you're not speaking any English. And if you've never done that before for 2 months and you're learning a challenging language, that can be stressful, right? So think about ways to, even thinking about in the application process itself, or into the moments where you would be, even maybe you've received it before you go, you should start thinking about what are those coping strategies or plans that you can enact to make sure that this is overall a positive experience for yourself, right? Just things to think about. So the language policy becomes an interesting opportunity, but can be a bit much to absorb. And if you're all about it, that's great. Not going to be, some people just love it, and it's not a problem at all. I'm not trying to say it's going to be hard for everybody, but for some it is, and that's normal. Students apply for a language, not a country, right? And there are a couple languages that are taught in various countries. You don't necessarily get a choice when it comes to placement. It depends on the language level, and it depends on the scholarship or the American councils that runs this program, how they interact with the partner institutions that are going to host you. A lot of that information I don't have, but can be found on their website if you're interested in the types of locations in which you'd be learning this language. Some of that also depends on the security concerns at the time. You're not going to be going to Iran to study Persian, right? And you'll have a language partner. So it's a good chance to also like have lifelong friends. There's probably like people who have found one another and, had a critical language love affair. That's great. That can happen. Not the reason to go or to put it in your statement, but I will tell you, you see that little boy that came in here with the Animal Crossing? His father is the guy that I met in the UK, to which I lived in London for 2 years. After I realized I didn't want to be a preacher's kid evangelical anymore, I made the right decision to grow up and to leave that. And then we have 2 little muggles that are like half British and half American. So we've done our part for cross-culturalism in our household. Thank you. You never know. You never know. I've had a couple people on Fulbrights go and meet their long-term romantic partners as well. So again, not billing that, but added benefits to going out and seeing the world. Oh my God, that's Anna Landry. Sorry, this is the first time I've looked at this PowerPoint. This is this critical language department's PowerPoint, and Anna is on the PowerPoint. Excellent. Cool. Okay, so, hey, there's a Georgetown recipient. Yay, go Anna. All right. You participate as a cohort, all different languages, undergraduate, graduate, all types of institutions. They are very interested in the diversification of the cohort. That does not, discriminate all, all of the protections that the federal government offers. This is a federal program and it would be accountable to those mandates. And you will have a resident director, someone with a lot of knowledge, having run this program, very familiar with the culture, fluent in the language, there to support you so that those early level language learners really have someone to rely on, especially if you're not speaking English. You're not going to be left out to dry in this program. You get the rapid gains, like I had mentioned before. You get a certificate from OPI that kind of demonstrates your progress. This is going to help you advance your career and make you more marketable for jobs. And if you do want federal jobs, this is going to be something that not only is that a skill communicating, I've got a critical language skill here, You're also going to be eligible for 1 year of non-competitive hiring status if you receive this award. After the award, you get the special designation, and that can help if you're interested in moving into a federally sort of agency. So they do want people with those skills, but again, the selection committee is guided not to overly prefer, you know, everybody that wants to go into State Department. Like, so again, don't game the system. What they want to know is why you really want this language, and if it's because you envision a career that does something in, you know, an NGO work or whatever, that's totally fine. Like, they want to be able to know what the real value add for you is, and that's going to be your most persuasive move that you can make. Oh, I should have waited for my relationship anecdote here. Okay, you get to build international relationships. That's excellent. And you can join a network, of course. This program's been going for quite some time. There's a lot of people out there that have done this, and you form a really nice, close-knit network of alumni. There are alumni ambassadors. So if you just want to talk to someone that's done that program, and I would recommend that these people want to talk to people about the excitement that they had. They also often have insider information that can help you be more precise with your application materials. Go to the Critical Language Scholarship website, look at your language ambassador. There's several of them. You might even find one from Georgetown. And then you want to maybe just have a conversation. Like, I'm really interested. What was the benefit? How did you, situate this within your long-term professional and career goals? Like, asking them and doing some of that homework can be a really valuable activity that helps prepare a strong application. So what does the application kind of look like? You want to start your application now, so you should feel free, if you haven't already, to go online and begin that process. You can go to the CLS website to do that, or you can grab that URL. We'll be sending the PowerPoint deck around with the recording and a lot of other supplementary materials in that Google Drive later, as I was referring to. So that'll all be here. You want to ensure that you are meeting the deadline. I know that we got started a little bit later. I don't even know, we're in October. We're in the middle of October somewhere. I don't even know what day it is. It's the 15th. Okay, so you have a month. Totally doable, but you want to start getting your ducks in a row now. And one of the first things that you're going to want to do is identify your recommender. This is the first year where they have reduced the recommendation requirement from 2 to 1. And it also looks like they'll be completing a recommendation form. I will get to who you should pick for your recommender in a minute. I also want to make it very clear that for Georgetown University students, you must, here we go. This is going to be anybody in Fulbright. Anybody done a Fulbright application? Put something in the chat box, and I want to see how many people here put in a Fulbright application. If I can get to the chat, make it interactive. I'm getting tired of talking. Okay, so yes. Oh, I know some names. It's so exciting to see you guys here. Okay, do we remember the shit show that it was to get your transcript? Yes. I'm just going to say yes. Oh, an extra big yes. Well, Tomas, very good, because you don't have to ask for one again. But here's the thing. Most State Department opportunities do not require official transcripts, unless your unofficial transcript doesn't have the name of your university on the transcript. So Georgetown University's unofficial transcripts are completely blank from what university it is. Yes, I've asked the registrar every year for 10 years, why this is the case. We still can't even do electronic, so on and so forth. Now, so here's the thing. You need to, if you know you're going to apply, you need to put a request in today or tomorrow or ASAP, your transcript, an official transcript. Send it to yourself. Yes, when you open it up and you scan it, it's going to say void on it. It doesn't matter. They don't need the official one, but they need to see that it's from your university. That's the thing. So that's kind of the way that we've been doing this. Now, you do not select pickup at White Gravener or whatever. They're not allowing anybody to do pickup. So even if you're in the area, you're going to need to have it sent to you. Even if it meant walking over, you're really close, you have a mask, whatever, still. They're only allowing it to be sent. And still, we had people about 3 or 4 weeks out ask for a transcript and it still not get to them before the Fulbright deadline. And then we had to just go crazy and do a whole bunch of stuff. I really don't want to do that again in November, right before Thanksgiving. I really wanted to be like on Pinterest, you know, the day, you know, of the deadline, and kind of like putting together my like pie list, you know, like that. I don't want to be like having to harass the registrar's office, right? Okay, if you're a freshman, don't have any grades yet. No, you don't submit the high school, but you will still submit your your official transcript, which has the names of the courses that you're enrolled in, even though you don't have grades, okay? So that they can see you're an enrolled student, so on and so forth. And if we are graduate students, do you use an undergrad? Yes, you need, if you're a graduate student, you're gonna need both. And if you're at like an undergrad at, you know, William and Mary or something, and they have an unofficial transcript with the university's name on it, that will be fine. Really, the problem is just Georgetown and our transcript situation. So go ahead and do that. And then about a week out, if you haven't gotten it, then we need to like figure out if we can expedite a process, so on and so forth. That said, if worse comes to worse, you can't get your transcript, just upload the unofficial one. For about 4 or 5 years, we didn't realize that the name of the institution wasn't on our transcript, and they accepted them and they still reviewed them. But once I found out that that was required, I can't in good faith now, like, it'll be fine, because the year that it's not is the year that I tell you it's fine, and then your candidacy is tanked because of my, you know, bad judgment. But if we do everything we can to get your transcript and you cannot get it, you still want to apply with your unofficial transcript, and likely it will be fine, especially in COVID, but still, okay? Try to get it. And then the essays, we can talk about this in a second. Oops, sorry guys, hold on. Okay, everybody should apply and can apply, be motivated. Yes, okay, good. Do your homework, seek help on campus, excellent. Timeline, apply now, 8 p.m. Eastern, 17th. Your recommendation has a little bit of lag time. Do not tell them that. I would say tell them it's due on the 16th or the 15th. It will just save you any heartache. Because here's the thing, if you don't get one, you probably won't go forward. There are some, here's the secret for everybody that applied on Fulbright recently. Even if you don't get the third in, you'll still be reviewed with 2. Probably doesn't look favorably on your candidacy. But, you know, and they don't widely publicize that. But sometimes like recommenders just don't get their stuff together, and the communication thing's tough, and it's COVID. But I have a feeling that if you don't get the 1 in, you're totally tanking your application. So give your recommenders an early deadline. You know, you can say like, oh, I can't, even though this is sort of like not true. It's like, I want to make sure I have yours in before I submit on the 17th. Although you should feel free, if you got yours done on the 14th and want to submit, you don't have to wait for your recommender at all to submit the recommendation. It'll still be attached to your application record so long as it seemingly comes in by the 20th, but I would not tell your recommenders that. Recommender. You'll find out in January whether you made it through the first round of review, and then you will find out in March if you have been selected. And then you would start in the summer. June and July is typically when these are happening. If you have a wedding to go to, or you have, you know, you come back for your, you know, second cousin's bar mitzvah, and you already have this planned out in the summer, no, they're not going to let you have any other, you have to start when the program starts. So even if your internship runs late and you want to come and I'll arrange, no, you need to be able to be there for the full program. You cannot leave and come back, even if you're funding it yourself. It's about the immersive cohort-based thing. So you need to consider your timeline and other things that you have going on in the summer. If you have a lot of things happening, like I've got 15 applications in for like all these internships next summer, and who knows what's going to happen with COVID, and I want to make sure I have an internship, but I could do this, throw your hat in the ring for as many things as possible, and then pick the one that makes the most sense when you have more clarity or information. So just because you have another thing that you want more than this doesn't mean you shouldn't also apply for this, just to keep a lot of things up and going, spin a lot of plates as much as you have time for. And then kind of when you have more clarity on whether you get something or not, make those decisions on whether you withdraw your candidacy or move forward when those decisions need to be made. If you end up later thinking like, I got this thing and now I need to withdraw my application. Is that going to look bad because I made it through the semifinal round? But I like don't know, what if I want to reapply next year? It doesn't matter. You can just withdraw at any time. It's not going to impact your candidacy for subsequent years. You should also know that even if you get this, no matter what, you cannot defer it. If you get it and you turn it down, no worries, you can apply again, but you have to apply again as a completely new applicant in that next application field. You're not going to get any priority for having one before. Just things to be mindful of. Okay, let's stop there, and I'm going to stop the recording.